Hello and welcome to the second video for a critical reasoning series for the new GMAT Focus edition. This is an update to our legendary GMAT course here on YouTube, in which we're adapting this whole new material to the GMAT Focus. By the way, we're also offering a free GMAT ebook with 100 high-quality GMAT questions. Just go to the description below and follow the instructions to get your ebook. Subscribe to our channel and don't forget to click on that notification bell to receive the latest updates when we upload a new video. So in this video, we'll cover the strengthening and weakening question type. Now, you need to understand something about the strengthening and weakening. I tell all of my students this. Strengthening and weakening is the most important part of critical reasoning. So if you want to get a good score on verbal, especially on critical reasoning, you need to dominate strengthening and weakening question types. Why? Well, basically because most of the questions you'll find on the GMAT will be strengthening and weakening. So let's say up to 60-70% of the questions in the whole exam for critical reasoning are going to be about this particular question type. So you truly want to have a good command of this question type. So now we're going to start with the theory. Pay close attention. Okay, perfect. So now here we have chapter number 2, strengthening and weakening, or strengthening and weakening. Okay, as we already mentioned in the introduction, these are the most common types of questions you're going to find in critical reasoning. Okay, those are two different types of questions. One is the one that is going to ask you to strengthen the conclusion, and the other one is the one that is going to ask you to weaken the conclusion. Okay. But basically, there are two sides of the same coin. So you are going to use the same type of theory in order to comply or answer these questions, okay? So now the most important thing here is to be able to identify the question. So when you read the question, you should be able to know that they're asking you about a strengthening or a weakening question. So some common synonyms that are going to be used for strengthening are support, soundness, to bolster something, evidence, or reason for. Those are some common words that you're going to find instead of strengthening that are going to ask you also to strengthen the conclusion. Okay, and then you have the synonyms of weakening. Weakening, the same thing as criticism, undermine, flaw, evidence against, or reason against. Okay, so just make sure that you know these types of words because the terminology in critical reasoning tends to be a little bit difficult. But remember this, when you have your argument, then you have your question, right? Just by reading the question, you should be able to identify what type of question that is. If it's a strengthening, if it's a weakening, if it's an assumption, etc. Just by reading the question, that's the most important thing. Don't rush here, because if you don't know what they're asking you clearly and fast, then you're going to have trouble solving a critical reasoning question. Okay, so that's why you have to train for, to be able to identify the question as soon as possible. Then we have this one. So there are going to be some exercises in which you don't get a question. All you're going to get is a blank. This one's a blank, okay? But then if you notice that the words that are leading to this blank are subordinators, like since, because, as, those are explanation keywords, right? Then that's a strengthening question. So whenever you see a blank and you see one of these keywords next to the blank, they are asking you to strengthen the main conclusion of the argument, or which is the same thing as saying the main conclusion of the author. Okay, so by this time you should already be acquainted with identifying conclusions and with identifying question types for strengthening and weakening. Perfect. So how we're going to do this? This lesson is going to be very hands-on. We're going to learn logical arguments based on exercises. Okay, so we're going to get to the first exercise. You're going to get 2 minutes. Remember, for each critical reasoning exercise, you get 2 minutes on average. So you're going to get 2 minutes to come up with your answer. And then I'm going to help you to analyze more carefully and more in detail this exercise. Okay, so here you have the first one. You get 2 minutes, starting right now. Perfect. So now it's over. You should already have your answer. Let's read the question first. Asbestos contains several toxins known to cause cancer in humans and animals. Because asbestos presents such a high health risk, laws must be passed in order to regulate the use of asbestos in the construction industry. Okay, the question of course was something that provides the most support for the argument. So remember, read the question first. So this one's a strengthen question, and they're asking you to strengthen the main conclusion. The main conclusion should be easy for you to get it, is laws must be passed in order to do what? To regulate. This one is a very straightforward argument. This one is an easy question, okay? How do you know this is an easy question? Because there's very little text. I mean, the story is very short, and basically you only get 2 sentences, and it's very direct. The conclusion is very obvious. Laws must be passed. Why? To regulate asbestos. Why? Because asbestos contains several toxins. Okay, very easy, very simple, very reduced type of argument. Now, something that tells me that asbestos and its toxins are dangerous. We already know they're dangerous, so we don't want to keep on repeating they're dangerous, but they give us one type of danger. They say this asbestos causes cancer. Okay, so cause cancer. Not only that they cause cancer, now we have to add some other sort of information. Maybe it causes the worst type of cancer possible. Maybe besides causing cancer, it also causes something else. We just want to keep saying bad things about asbestos, right? Because if we are going to strengthen the regulation, if we're going to argue for the regulation, we want to say that asbestos is very dangerous. So we just want to keep on adding things. Okay, we already know it causes cancer, but if we give any sort of new information regarding cancer or regarding any other drawbacks that the use of asbestos may present. Okay, so now let's see the first one. The amount of toxins contained in asbestos is much less than the amount of toxins found in everyday plastic products. It's very easy for us to eliminate this, all right? This one's wrong. Why? Because if anything, they're whitewashing asbestos, right? They are saying that asbestos contains less toxins than other plastic products. So basically they're saying asbestos is not as bad, okay? And that's not what we want here. What we want is we want to say that asbestos is bad. Asbestos is dangerous. We don't want to whitewash asbestos. So letter A is not doing a good job. Letter A, in fact, I think it's weakening. Okay, it's weakening. It's the other way around. It's basically saying something good about asbestos. Number 2, or letter B. In the jurisdiction covered by the proposed legislation, cellulose is used instead of asbestos in virtually all applications. Okay, this one weakens also. That's not what we want. Why? Because they're saying asbestos is very seldomly used, scarcely used. Almost nobody uses asbestos. Most people use cellulose. Okay, so if asbestos is such a minimum or a minimal, so if asbestos is such a minimal threat, why would you want to pass, or why would you need to pass legislation or laws, right? So that kind of tells you, you know what, laws might not be needed. Why? Because at the end of the day, even though asbestos is very dangerous, I mean, you almost don't get any asbestos in the city because people use other products or other substitutes, okay? And so that would leave the law without too much of a purpose, okay? That would defeat the purpose. So that's not good enough. Now, letter C. Thermoplastic is much more toxic than that's also very easy for us to eliminate. Why? The same thing as A. They're whitewashing asbestos by saying that there is something that is even worse. So just in reference to thermoplastic, asbestos looks like a good product, right? It doesn't look that bad. Letter D. People who reside near asbestos-plagued buildings are not interested in the proposed legislation. This one is a little bit of a weekend and a little bit of out of scope, okay? Out of scope means that it doesn't really strengthen or weaken. I mean, it's outside of the argument. It doesn't answer the question. Why? Because basically we don't care if people are interested or not. When you pass laws, it's not only for the interest of the residents, right? Now, But also because even if we assume that in order to pass the law, it is important for the people to be interested in the law, that doesn't help the law, right? Because if people are not interested, they are not likely to accept the laws that are going to be imposed. And we want to say that the laws are good, that we need to prohibit or we need to regulate asbestos. So that's not good. That's saying something bad about the law. And of course, letter E is our answer. Cities with a high proportion of structures built with asbestos have the highest cancer rates in the country. So you are saying something in the light of the cancer. You are not only saying that it causes cancer, but it causes more cancer than other cities. I mean, if you have asbestos, that's correlated with a higher incidence of cancer. It's not only the causing of cancer, it's also the likelihood of getting cancer, which wasn't really stated. Likelihood wasn't stated in the actual argument. So you're giving a new premise, a new piece of information in order to say that yes, asbestos is dangerous. This one is a very easy exercise actually, right? Because that's the only one, letter E, that says something negative about asbestos, okay? So this one is kind of an example of the easiest type of critical reasoning question. So this one would be a very easy exercise on the GMAT. Now let's go to the next one. Alright, so here the question is about weakening, right? Which of the following, if true, most seriously weakens the argument above? Okay, what is the argument about? Submarine fiber optic cables are necessary to optimally connect countries in different continents to the internet. Okay, even if only a minor part of the cable is damaged, the whole cable's ability to transfer data is lost. And because these cables are deep under the sea, expert scuba divers are needed to repair them. Therefore, scuba divers must continue to be deployed. Okay, so basically here we have to be careful with the extreme word. Extreme word in the conclusion, right? What are extreme words? Extreme words are things like never, like always, like must, okay, must, all, none. Okay, whenever you see one of these words in the conclusion, you have to pay very close attention. So here we have scuba divers must continue to be deployed. This is a conclusion. Okay, so basically with must, they're saying that's the only way. There's no other way. That's the only way in which you can solve something, right? Scuba divers must continue to be deployed. Why? Because scuba divers are needed to repair them. So it is necessary for you to repair them. There's not another way in which you can connect these countries to the internet. So we want to weaken that. By weakening, we're going to say that there is another way, that we don't need to send scuba divers over to repair these cables. Maybe we have other options. Maybe we can repair them. The pre-thinking would be, okay, so they tell me I must send scuba divers, and I want to weaken that, so I want to say, okay, I don't need to send scuba divers. Option number one would be, we can repair the cables in some other way, right? Different way. The other one would be, we don't need to repair the cables, no need to repair them. Maybe there are other options besides cables, or there are other ways to lay out cables, okay? So those would be the two things we have in the pre-thinking before we even analyze the answer choices. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Cables that remain broken for a long time rot and emit toxic pollutants that affect the ocean's wildlife. Okay, why do we care about the ocean's wildlife? I mean, do we care about that, the wildlife? No, right? Well, I mean, it's important, but according to the argument, that's not part of the conclusion. Well, the conclusion doesn't care. It's not environmentally focused. Okay, it's not environmentally oriented. So yeah, I mean, this one seems like a bad thing, that it's gonna emit pollutants, but that's not, according to the argument, that's not important for us. We don't care about damaging the environment. We care about connecting the countries. So this is out of scope. That's not part of the argument. The argument is not focused on the environmental drawbacks or the environmental effects, collateral damage you might create from this. Letter B. Even though internet fiber optic cables are necessary to connect most countries, people all over the world have access to wireless internet from satellites. That seems attractive. That seems good. Why? Because you'd say, all right, you have another option. So it's not only the cables, right? But you also have the satellites. So even if you don't have the cables, you might have the satellites, and that should be good enough for people to be connected. But then we have to be very careful here, very careful with the premises, right? Premises are basically the facts, right? The facts we saw before. There are tons of facts here. We cannot contradict a fact. Now remember, here let's read the first fact. What is the first fact? Submarine fiber optic cables are necessary to optimally connect countries in different continents. They are necessary. So that's not up for discussion. We cannot say, no, they are not necessary. There is another way in which we can do this. We have the satellites. That should be good enough. No. Why? Because they already told us these cables are necessary for the continents or countries in different continents to be connected. Okay? So letter B is not good enough. Why? Because it goes, our assumption here, letter B, goes against the premise, because we'll be saying, okay, cables are not necessary and satellites should do good enough. Okay, they should do good enough. And that's not the case, because the first sentence goes against it. Cables are necessary. There is no question about it. Letter C, the government is looking to cut its budget for the maintenance of undersea internet cables. Okay, they're looking to cut their budget. Now, why does it matter? Because when they say scuba divers must continue, they're not saying it would be good if the scuba divers go and fix them, or it's going to be expensive, or it's going to be cheap to send the scuba divers. Money is an issue here, yes, but it's not that much of an issue. I mean, it's not whether it's too expensive or not. It's whether you can truly find another solution in order to repair the cables, or in order to do something with the cables, but to be able to wire these countries in different continents up. Okay, you have to be able to connect them. That's the thing. In letter C, they are not talking anything about the connection. So that's out. So letter D. Now, because of technical requirements repairing undersea cables, replacing the whole cable from one end to the other is less expensive. Okay. That one's their answer. Why? Because they tell you there is another option. Okay, you wanted to repair the cables, you want to repair them, but here you can just lay out new cables, and that's much more efficient, right? So that's my option. And here we still get the cables, right? Because that's important. We have to have the cables. Why? Because of the first sentence. The cables are important for a good connection between these countries. So, but there's another way for you to get the cable. You don't need to repair it. What you need to do is just to lay out a new set of cables and you'll be good. So that one's our answer here. Because we don't need to continue to deploy scuba divers. Letter E, undersea cable repairment requires several cubic feet of oxygen, making it a very expensive undertaking. Okay, the cost. Good, but the cost is not, it's important, but not that important here. What we care about is whether we have another option. Because even if it's expensive, if repairing were the only option, then we have to assume the cost. We just have to pay for the thing. Okay, that's the thing. So, but in this case, if we have another option, then we can decide to go with the other option, and in that case, this math would be wrong. You see? So that's why letter D is the answer here. Pretty simple. This one is an intermediate question for the GMAT. Now let's go to the third one. Okay, again, you're gonna get 2 minutes to do this. So 3, 2, 1, let's go. Alright, so let's read the question. Which of the following is true most seriously weakens? So this one's a weakening question, the argument above. Now let's read the argument. You have a comic book guy. The comic book guy says, the number of comic books sold last year was less than it had been in the previous years. The biggest comic writers last year were more interested in writing scripts for films, and subsequently wrote comics with less quality and originality. Therefore, it is likely that the decrease in sales was due to the poorer plots in comic books. So this is what we call a cause-effect type of argument. So this comic book guy is saying that decrease in sales was because, so that's the effect, right? Decrease in sales was caused by poorer plots in comic books. Poorer plots. The plots have lower quality, basically. And why? Because he gives a premise. Last year, most writers were more interested in writing scripts or films and didn't put too much effort into writing comic books. Okay, that's his argument. So we want to weaken that. We want to say that the decrease in plots did not cause a decrease in sales. Maybe there was another cause, an alternate cause, or maybe there's something else that shows us that these two things, the decrease in the quality of the plot and a decrease in sales, are not correlated. Okay, so the first one, not every plot written by a major comic book writer was accepted for release during last year. Does that break the correlation here? Not every plot? No, right? Why would it break the correlation? It doesn't say anything about sales to start with, just talks about the plot, and it doesn't qualify the plot whether we're talking about a quality plot or a plot with a lesser quality, so that's not our answer. Let's go to B. The average time it takes for a major comic book writer to write a complete story for a comic book has decreased in the past 10 years. And now, okay, but that doesn't really correlate with quality, right? So the time has decreased, okay, but is it because they have become more efficient? Or is it just because they're writing poorer plots? It's not clear from B, right? So the quality has gone down or the efficiency has gone up. We don't know. Letter B doesn't tell us, so that's not good enough either. Letter C. The major comic book publishers had the same revenue from the sale of comics this year as last year. Okay, so in this case, revenue from the comic book publishers. Or does it matter whether, does it let us analyze, let us assess the relationship between the decrease in the quality of plots and a decrease in sales? No, right? What does the revenue from the publishers have to do with this? So that's not our answer. Letter D, writing stories for films is not the only side job comic book writers usually have. Okay, so they have other side jobs too. Okay, but does that, okay, they might have 10 side jobs, who knows? Let's say they have 10 side jobs. Okay, here the conclusion is not that it is because they are writing scripts for movies that the sales have decreased. That's not the conclusion. The conclusion is a relationship, a correlation between the decrease in the quality of the plot and a decrease in sales. And letter D doesn't say anything about the decrease in the quality of the plot or the sales. So that's not good. It's not analyzing the correlation between the cause and the effect. Letter E, environmental advocates launched a campaign last year against all printed books and magazines. That's directly affecting the sales. So that's our answer. Why? Because it's telling me there's a different cause, an alternate cause for the decrease in sales. Maybe it is not caused by the decrease in the quality of the plot. Maybe it is because of this boycott that is going on by these environmental advocates, right? You have the environmental advocates and they are launching a campaign against, they're boycotting basically all printed books and magazines, which of course comic books fall into this category. So it might be because of this boycott that the sales have decreased, and actually it has nothing to do with the plot or with the decrease in the quality of the plots. Okay, so that's what we call an alternate cause. Pretty simple, right? So that's our cause effect. All right, so here we have question number 4 for strengthening and weakening. So do it. You already know that you have 2 minutes, and then we're going to go over the answer. Okay, so now this one is a flow question. They're asking you for the flow, okay? Now, what is a flow? Basically, it's kind of a weakening, but it's got a different spin to it, okay? Because they are not asking you to provide an evidence or a fact, a premise that weakens the argument, that weakens the main conclusion. They don't want you to weaken it in that sense. What they want you to do is to identify the flaw in reasoning. What mistake is the author making in this argument? So it's a little different. They don't want you to provide new information that would destroy the argument. They want you just to point out what mistake was made in this argument. So let's read the argument. According to a recent market study, adults aged 30 to 50 are actually more likely to purchase toys and are more likely to purchase them in larger quantities than are members of any other demographic group. Hence, the commonly held belief that kids and teens play more with toys is mistaken. Okay, so first what they're saying is adults are the ones buying more toys. Okay, adults between the ages of 30 to 50. Okay, and then they say this would support the theory, the belief that actually kids and teens are not the ones playing more with toys because adults buy more. So because adults buy more toys than adults play with toys more than kids and teens do. You see? So that's the logic here. Now, what flaw, what mistake can we see in this logic? Let's see. The first one, the argument is mainly flawed because the author doesn't supply information of adults in age groups other than between 30 to 50. Okay, is that a problem? So does the author, in order to make his conclusion valid, does the author have to provide more support of adults? No, because we don't have to go and see all group ages. The author is taking a sample, a very representative sample of adults between 30 to 50. That's like the middle age of adults. And that should be enough. So the problem is not that. The problem is really here, how is the author making the link between these two, between buying and playing? Because the author is kind of making an equation of that. He's equaling buying to playing, but is that necessarily so? Anybody who buys something will use it. So if you buy a toy, you have to use it, you have to play with it, or maybe you can buy it as a gift. I don't know. So letter A is not the answer. Letter B, the argument fails to distinguish between purchasing and usage. That's what we've been talking about, right? The author hasn't really distinguished between these two, and he hasn't really provided any support in order to say that buying is equal to playing. So that's our answer. Letter C, attacks the commonly held belief rather than a proven statistical study. No, there is nothing wrong with attacking or with criticizing or with trying to weaken a commonly held belief. So the author is actually doing okay trying to weaken a belief, because a belief is a claim is an opinion. So he's trying to weaken an opinion, and that's fine, totally fine. So that's not a problem. Okay, now letter D. The argument fails to specify the actual quantity of toys purchased by both demographic groups mentioned. Now, is it necessary for the author to indicate the exact number, the exact quantity of toys that are being bought? Not really. Why would we need to have exact number? It's not a matter of number. Just by saying that one group buys more than the other one, that's a good enough fact. That's a fact, and that will help the author to substantiate, to improve, to support his claim. So that wasn't a problem. Letter E. The argument talks about a demographic group without specifying which members might be included in it. I don't think that's a problem, right? Because actually he said demographic group of adults between the ages of 30 to 50. So that, I think that's fine, right? What more information would be helpful? What their hair color, their marital status? No, I don't think so, right? So that doesn't matter. Just by knowing that they're adults is good enough. So that's out. Answer B. This one, by the way, is an easy question. Okay, now we're going to go to the next one, number 5. Okay, so again, you get 2 minutes to get your answer. By the way, remember to follow us in our different social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you don't, I'm being very serious now. If you don't, you're missing on a lot of stuff. What stuff? Amazing exclusive content for different international exams, such as the GMAT, the TOEFL, the GRE. And by the way, it's on these sites that we also publish our promotions, our big discounts for any prep programs. So if you're looking for big discounts in GMAT prep programs with the best tutors in the world, then it's better for you to follow us in our social media sites for you to access our big discounts. Okay, so you get 2 minutes here, only two, and then we're gonna go over the answer and explanation. Let's go. Okay, perfect. So now, time's up. This question is definitely a strengthening question. Strengthen. Okay, they're asking you to strengthen this thing here, which is the conclusion, right? The decision they made to postpone the campaign. They want you to give the best reason. They want you to identify one reason why this would make sense. You have to support this decision to postpone the campaign. So let's read the whole story. Stark Industries, the biggest nanotechnology firm in the world, is currently developing a new bioengineering technology called the skin screen. Okay, that's a weird and sexy name, right? Which would allow users to turn part of their skin in their bodies into a screen display. Okay, this technology is more efficient and advanced than any other similar technology developed by competing firms. Even though the research conducted by Stark Industries' marketing department has shown that profits will be maximized if the advertisement campaign for the skin screen starts now, Tony Stark, the company's CEO, has decided to start the advertisement campaign in 12 months. So Tony Stark doesn't want to do it right now. He says, let's wait. Okay, now is not the time. We're going to have to wait a full year. Now, you want to support Tony Stark in this case. You want to say that he had a reason to do this, reason that would benefit his own company. Okay, so let's see the first one. Some buyers might be hesitant to purchase a product that changes part of their body. Okay, is that going to be solved in 12 months? So right now they might be hesitant. In 12 months they're going to be hesitant. Who knows, right? I mean, if they're hesitant now, why wouldn't they be hesitant in 12 months? What's going to happen within these 12 months that is going to make him believe otherwise, or that is going to make him trust this new tech? They don't tell us, they don't give us a reason, so that's not a reason, okay? Now, you want to provide a reason why waiting 12 months is important, is beneficial for the company. Number 2, Stark's main rival company is developing a similar technology, but is still in the intermediate stages. Okay, now, so if you already have the technology and the other competing firm is already working on the development for a product that is similar, wouldn't you want to release your product as soon as possible? You would, right? So in this case, I think this one's a weaken. That one is saying, basically, this is suggesting that the postponement of the campaign is wrong, right? Because there are incentives for the company, for Stark Industries, to release the product to the market right now. So that's not the answer. That's the opposite of what we want. Let us see. Advertising the technology right now would hurt Stark's lines of similar products, including their line of clothing with screens. Now, this one seems okay. This one's the answer. Why? Because if you advertise now, you're gonna, of course, you're gonna have revenues from the sales of the skin screen. Again, that's a sexy name, right? Skin screen. But then you're gonna lose revenues from your line of clothing with screens. So once you release this new product, that's gonna substitute the other product that you're also selling, which is clothing with screens, right? That right now is hot, that right now is selling good. So you don't want to interrupt the sales, all right, of that product. So that would be a reason why you would need to wait 12 months. That's good. Letter D, Stark has yet to get permits to implement his new technology in some smaller countries. Okay, this one seems fine, right? Because it's saying that you're waiting because you don't have all the permits. What's the matter though? That they say in some smaller countries. So of course, as any other company, right, Stark Industries should be focused basically on the main market. And the main market is most of the countries, right? Not the smaller ones, but the biggest ones. So if instead of smaller, this one's the biggest, then that would be fine, because they wouldn't be able to release the product right now, so they would need to wait. But as they are only saying here, they're only saying smaller countries, then that's not good enough. Okay, so that's not the answer. And the last one, researchers would be encouraged to ask for higher wages as soon as the skin screen hits the market. Okay, but I mean, why wait in 12 months, right? That's going to happen now or in 12 months anyway. So if the researchers want to ask for a higher wage, for a higher pay, then you're just postponing the payment, but in reality, it's going to happen either way, you see? So that's not the answer. There you go. See here, this one's an intermediate question. Now let's go and let's evaluate, let's analyze one more question. So here, number 6, you get 2 minutes to work this out, and once you're finished, you have to finish in 2 minutes, okay? That you have to build the habit. After 2 minutes, I'm going to come here, I'm going to save you by giving you the explanation and the right answer. Okay, so now let's see. This was a weakening question, right? Which of them, if true, best weakens the argument? So it's a very straightforward question. Now we care about the story and, of course, about the main conclusion. Let's read the whole story. CEO of bus company, he's saying something. He says, our buses have so few riders that we are barely making a profit. Okay, unfortunately, we cannot raise fare prices because of the risk that passengers will switch to other forms of transportation. On the other hand, the cost of operating our large buses is the same whether they're empty or at their full capacity. Evidently, thus, to increase profits, we must get more passengers to ride the bus. And so that last sentence here, evidently, thus, evidently is like it is clear, right? So that's a main conclusion. That's his opinion, that they must increase profits they must get more passengers in the buses to increase profits. Now, I want you to focus on this word, must. We went over this type of words in one of the previous exercises. Just to refresh your memory, we mentioned that these types of words were called extreme words. Okay, extreme words. Basically, words like all, never, only, nothing, and also the word must. Must is basically saying that's the only, you're going to remember, right? Only way. So the only way for you to increase profits is by getting more passengers to ride the buses. Okay. Now, how can we weaken that? Very easily. We can say that that's not the only way, that there is another way, another option for us to increase the profits. Okay. So that one which tells us that there is another way to increase profits will be the answer here. Okay, let's check the first one. It is possible to transform the buses to make them smaller, decreasing their total operating cost. Okay, so whenever you have the word profits, you immediately have to think about this. Profit is equal to what? Revenues minus costs, right? Costs, you have a lot of factors in costs, right? Operating costs, you have variable costs, fixed costs, etc. And then you have the revenues. Revenues are price times quantity. Okay. Now here, if you check letter A, they say there is a way that you can do something to the buses. You can adjust them, right? You can transform them. You can convert them into something else, and you will decrease the costs. So if you have less costs, what happens to the profits? It will go up, of course. So is that another way to increase your profits? Yes, that's another way to increase your profits. So getting more passengers wasn't the only way. So that will weaken your answer, your main conclusion. Okay, so that's the answer here, letter A. What about the second one? The bus company is located in a geographical area where there are more passengers in summer than in winter. Okay, this is out of scope because we don't care about this difference between summer and winter. Plus, we don't know if the CEO of this company is talking about the summer or the winter or both, right? So we don't know in which season we are right now. So that's out. Let us see. The company's capacity rate per bus, though low, has been stable during the last 5 years. Okay, that doesn't weaken the conclusion, right? Because we want to evaluate whether really we must get more passengers in order to increase our profits. This says nothing about the profits nor about the plan to increase the profits. So that's out. Letter D. The bus company has never tried to increase bus fares before. Okay, they've never tried it, and but that's not the conclusion. That is out of scope. Also out of scope. Here we have to focus on this part. Evidently, to increase profits, we must get more passengers. The main conclusion is our everything. Okay, that's the only thing we care about. The nexus between the premises and the main conclusion. We want to attack. When they say weaken the argument, they say weaken the main conclusion from the argument. Weaken the opinion made by the author. So this one's out. Letter D. Regular passengers are not likely to switch to other forms of transportation in the near future. Okay, they are not likely to switch, but that one that goes against the premise, and that's not good. We mentioned that facts, right, against a fact. Facts are facts. We cannot contradict facts. One of the facts tells us we cannot raise fair prices. Okay, so that's it. I mean, they can't raise fair prices. Okay, that's it. There's nothing we can do about that. And this one kind of insinuates, kind of suggests that they could raise the prices. And that's not good because that's going against the facts. That's the difference between facts and opinions. Okay, we saw that in the introduction of critical reasoning, right? So you better have that down right, fully. Okay, so this one's been strengthening and weakening. As you see, there are different types of argumentation types, different types of logic that are employed in these questions. Just get used to them, okay, because you're going to be seeing them a lot. Strengthening and weakening is by far the most important part of critical reasoning because it's going to make the bulk of all the questions you get in the exam for this part of the verbal section, okay? So you better pay close attention here and practice a lot. By the way, you should have already downloaded our free PDF with 100 free GMAT exercises called Liberty Challenge Volume 1. If you haven't done so, then you're missing on a lot of practice material. So just go to the link below to the description and you're going to find a link to our free PDF. And then you're going to get a lot of questions to practice with. And of course, you're going to need to practice with several questions in order to get this down. The practice material is very important, okay? But we got you covered. We already have this PDF in there with video explanations also, by the way. So, but first, before just doing the exercises, you have to get your theory down. So you have to watch this video completely. Once you watch this video completely, you get your theory, then you go and practice. Not the other way around, okay? You never start practicing and then studying theory. You have to go step by step. You first get the theory, then little by little you start building your own foundations, and then you start practicing. Okay, so just go download the file. Perfect, so now you can watch the third video on our critical reasoning series, or you can go and watch our other series like the reading comprehension one, quantitative, and data insights. Remember to request your free ebook, and most importantly, if you are really looking to get a high score on the GMAT because you want to go to one of those top MBAs in the world, then you can always count on us, Liberty Test Prep, to help you out. You can check our private tutoring packages on our website here at the bottom of the video, or on the description below also you find the link. Our experts will be more than willing to help you get the score you need.